and our Republican host, Willie Montague. With only 20 days until Election Day, the race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is incredibly tight. With just weeks left, every move from now on is crucial. Let's jump into today's key campaign highlights and take a look at what's happening on the trail. Vice President Kamala Harris made her long-awaited and very heated debut on Fox News Wednesday. Harris used the opportunity to redirect attention to Donald Trump's record and turned inquiries about her nearly 4 years served in office into sharp criticisms of her Republican rival. Let's take a look.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't.
Willie, do you think American voters are hesitant to support Kamala Harris because of her history and accomplishments during her time serving as vice president?
I'm like Brett. Like, what are you talking about? I have absolutely no clue what she was talking about. This is a prime example. If you looked at that interview, she spent the entire interview and everything was Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. This is the lack of leadership. It is, again, someone that shows that they're just not following through on their promises. She has no plan of action moving forward. And I just think that this interview shows that she's not ready for the hard questions. So.
Not ready for the hard questions, says someone who their leader of their party has avoided major news outlets 4 times. So we'll get to that. But if we want to compare mangoes to oranges, get it? Because she's Jamaican, mangoes, and he's oranges, orange man. I'm there all night. If we want to compare history and facts, let's talk about how he incited an insurrection on our government. He didn't handle the COVID crisis well. Millions of Americans passed away due to his lack of leadership. He allowed white nationalist protesters, he called them fine people in our country. He promoted the interests of corporate executives and shareholders over working people. He diminished the integrity and accuracy of the 2020 census, which is imperative for communities to get federal government assistance and other resources. So that would also have an impact on our 2024 election. So if we want to compare things, let's just bring everything to the table.
And let's do it. And again, here we go. It is always what happened so many years ago. This was VP Harris speaking just in the current present day, unable to answer the simple questions of taking accountability and responsibility for her current action.
I think she did a fine job.
Well,
I think she did a fine job, honestly, because she went into the lion's den, which many people would probably tell her that she shouldn't have done. But she did it with her knees shaking. She did it with the boldness and poise. Even though that interview was extremely heated, as the words that we use, it was very heated. But he came out the gate like extremely aggressive. And as a woman who is in office, she wasn't even able to finish her sentences. He was talking over her. It was just very misogynistic.
This is something that we got to understand. If VP Harris is ready for this position, all that feminist thing that goes on, it has to cease.
No, it's not that. It's a lack of respect.
You are going to sit in rooms with all men. You have countries. This is why some of the issue. You have countries who do not respect women in leadership. And if she is going to have that, she has. I'm talking about other countries. She's going to have
talking about the one who's running for president now.
Other countries. I'm talking about in her.
Does not respect women.
If she is going to have any level of authority, she's going to have to get a backbone.
Here we go.
She cannot
authority
go,
and
she
women
cannot
submitting.
go around She cannot go around. I said she needs to understand
Don't
authority.
let this sweat on my lips start to pop
Submission
up.
is nothing wrong with the word submission. This is why you have the feminist movement who run all the men out of the homes, all the men out of the community, because they think that men should cower down to women, and that's not true.
Let's
so
not
you can
talk
call it
about power down.
chauvinistic, you can call it whatever you want to, but at the end of the day, you have to
see what I mean?
No.
Do you see what
At
I'm
the end of the
We
day,
gotta
she's
move
taking
on.
to that.
Thank you so much for all these comments here. Yes, it got hot. We're going to move on we have the latest campaign trail updates, so make sure you stay tuned. Now it's time to move on to political programs. Studies show that former President Donald Trump's policies have delivered record-breaking economic results for African Americans, with unemployment hitting a record low of 5.9% and nearly 1 million new jobs since his election. The poverty rate for African Americans also reached an all-time low in 2017. Shakia, do you believe Trump's economic accomplishments could possibly influence African American voters in this election?
I think the little accomplishments that Trump has had in his career is not enough to persuade African American voters in this election. And if it is, it's because he's capitalizing on their ignorance. Okay? He does a lot of that. But what I will say is that if you look at his website, there is no mention of African Americans and what he plans to do for this community. And if you also look at his website, he has 20 bullet points of the things that he would do, but he doesn't tell you how he'll do it. And none of them mention anything about black communities. If you go back to when he was running in 2016, and I am going to do this because that's the only thing you have to pull up for him.
Fake news, folks.
Not fake news.
Fake news.
Go to Google.
Fake news.
Call it fake if you want to. Check this out for yourselves. If you go back to his history and go to 2016, he laid out a plan of what he would do for the blacks, as he calls us, right? And if you look at present day, he's not even mentioning any of those things that he ran on in 2016.
Let's get into this.
He has talked about black jobs, the black jobs that so far that immigrants have tried to take from us, the black jobs.
Okay, I heard from an 80-year-old black Republican from Chicago that said the jobs that they worked at that time, they were black jobs. They were janitors, they were bussers, they were going out there working in hospitals. And she said it's okay that this was an 80-year-old woman that has spent her time and she has made the transformation as a black Republican. Yes. From Chicago. Now let's go to 2016. In 2016, that when he was running, he had initiated plans in the time that he was in office. That's why I keep going over this. That is why we have opportunities. But let me pull something out for you. This is what President Donald J. Trump proposed, but because of the thievery of the Democrats, we were not able to get this plan up in play. This is the platinum plan with over $500 billion, not million, $1 billion.
So
please show me this type of plan.
If that was so successful and if that was the plan that he had, why isn't that a part of his speech and his campaign trail today?
Because you know why? Because he's doing the work. He's not having to have somebody.
Doing what work for black people?
He's out there in the community. He's showing up to black communities. He's showing up.
But how is he implementing this in black communities
now? Well, let's ask the question how Harris is doing it. All Harris is doing is sending out the watchdog Obama to be the advocate on her behalf.
How is he a watchdog? He's the former president, so please put some respect on his name.
Okay, I will respect it. President Obama watchdog is out there doing those things. There you go.
As far as Harris and this administration with Biden and Harris, a lot of your rhetoric that you uplift is that Trump gave HBCUs thousands and millions of dollars. Yes, that is true. Him and Obama also gave around roughly the same amount, which is like between $80 to $85 million. This administration with VP Harris and Biden, they gave $1.3 million to HBCUs. And baby, I am a proud alumna of the great Bethune-Cookman University, which is an HBCU in Florida, Daytona Beach.
So great, you got some of the money from
let's
Donald Trump.
not talk about what Trump is and isn't doing for the community. Let's lay it out with facts. A lot of black people are talking about the stimulus checks. Baby, to be real with you, the Democrats pushed that. Trump only wanted to sign that so that he can get the glory for it, which is what he's known for.
Oh, give me
Y'all
a
only got the
break.
stimulus checks one time.
Why don't you tell us what has he done?
So what
That
else
is
do
what
y'all
I'm
got?
telling you. He has been on a tour along with the Black Conservative Federation, and he has been going to barbershops, he has been going to communities, and he has been talking about an economic
Black Republican
plan.
Federation,
But the
mostly
Black Conservative
people lean
Federation,
Democratic. Where is he at in the hood? Is he going to
that is not
barbershops?
true.
Is he
Historically,
having town halls with black people?
we're going to talk about that on the show about how black
Is
people
he doing
actually
it?
became
What
Democrats
work is
and
he
why
doing?
we lost that.
If this
He's
was
doing
what
the
he
work.
did back in 2016, if this is the plan that he had in 2016,
Let's get
he should
to
still be doing it.
what
He is a true
is
public
Harris
servant of the
doing?
community.
What has
If he is
what
true
has
and elected official,
O'Biden done?
It wouldn't stop
That's the
if he
question you
wasn't
should
in
ask.
office.
What has O'Biden done? Let's ask that question.
We're going to move on. Coming up next, find out what's been trending on social media, and we have the latest polls. Don't move, because it's hot up in here. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back. Woo! Social media has been keeping us in the loop on the 2024 presidential election. Let's check out some social media updates. The 39th president, Jimmy Carter, voted by mail yesterday in Georgia at the age of 100. Former President Jimmy Carter has publicly expressed his support for Kamala Harris and shared by his grandson, Jason Carter, during the Democratic National Convention. Willie, how much of an influence do you think past presidents have on this election? Or do you think it's all based on personal preference?
Let me first just state this. I want you guys to go and I want you to Google Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday celebration. And I want you to look at the video of former President Jimmy Carter. And I want you to tell me, how do you think that Jimmy Carter said or was able to vote in the condition that he was in? It was a forged vote. This should be elder abuse because of what they have done to drag him out of his house at 100 years old, barely able to keep his head up, and the audacity of the Democrats to praise this as a winning strategy. So to your question about what do you think that these presidents have influenced? Absolutely. The only thing that has influenced them Bush has stayed out of it. Other presidents have said certain things, but they have remained pretty much silent. The only former president that goes and stick his head out there because he is literally running for his fourth term.
Okay, so
is
I've heard enough.
President Obama.
I think the lack of respect for our elders and seniors who have lived through the worst of times, the best of times that this country has seen, the lack of respect that my co-host is showing is the same nature that the Republican Party has for elderly. They're coming for our Medicaid and our Medicare plans.
That's fake
news. So
news.
if you have relatives who are of age and who are seniors, I really encourage you to hear this type of rhetoric and make
That's
your
fake
own
news.
decision.
If anything, we've been trying to get more money.
Having the support of former presidents, I think, is prestigious. I think it shows that they believe in the person that is running for this seat, that they can also do what they did or even better in their presidency. So to have the 39th president of the United States support you is huge. For that to be his dying wish is huge. To have former President Barack Obama and former President Bill Clinton, who are still alive, to have them do all of that and support you on your campaign, I think it shows tremendous courage.
Again, I'll say it's
and
elder abuse.
It also shows that our nation is ready to end this divide of ageism, sexism, and I think it's just a beautiful support.
Speaking of casting votes, a viral video of Donald Trump urging people to vote is circulating online, but there's one big problem. He gave out the wrong date. Take a look.
If everything works out, if everybody gets out and votes on January 5th or before, it used to be you'd have a date. Today you can vote 2 months before, probably 3 months after. They don't know what the hell they're doing. But we're going to straighten it all out. We're going to straighten that out, too. We're going to straighten our election process out, too. That's going to be important also. So thank you.
Shakia, with Election Day so close and critical, do you think this mistake deserves all this attention it's been getting?
Don't cut your eyes at me, Willie.
Really, did you?
What?
Don't cut your eyes at me, bruh. And I say that jokingly because just in a few breaths ago, this man just sat up here and said that former President Jimmy Carter was abuse and that he was dragged there and that it was all of these things. But yet we have a 78-year-old senior who's also a senior who has also lived through the best of times and worst of times. That is not showing that he is sharp. He is telling you to go and vote for him on January 5th.
Okay,
I don't know about y'all,
so he misspoke.
But misspoke. That is true. But it also shows the declining nature of his mental capacity. But what I do want us to think about, that's not even really an issue for us at this point. The Americans know that the election for this year is on November 5th. 2024. But what I do want folks to realize is that 10 states across our nation also have abortion on the ballot for you to vote on. Bodily autonomy is important. So for all of the women who are on the fence about what they should do, I don't even think you should focus on Trump and his senile ways. Figure out what you want to do with your body and make the vote.
This is what I found interesting, though. I found that January 6th happened, and he said go vote on January 5th.
There's no correlation. That's reaching. That's reaching. He misspoke.
No, I think it's interesting, though.
He misspoke, but I got to say this.
Willie getting loud, honey, up in here.
You have the absolute autonomy of your body. And I will again say this. The baby in your womb is not your autonomy. It is a life and it should be protected at all costs.
Says a man with no reproductive organs to even carry a baby. So
I don't have sperm.
On that note,
how else do you get a baby?
Make your choice.
Wait. How else do we get a baby?
On that note, let's check in on the latest polls. I'm gonna have to get loud like you, Willie. According to the latest polls, Kamala Harris is slightly ahead with 48.5%, while Donald Trump follows closely with 46.1%. Right now, the polls are very tight in the 7 states considered battlegrounds in this election, and neither candidate has a decisive lead in any of them, according to the polling averages. Shakia, with the polls this close, from a Democrat perspective, what strategies do you think Kamala Harris needs to focus on to tip the scales in her favor?
I think she should focus on the 55% of white women who voted for Trump in 2016. And I say that because if you remember earlier this week, Trump had a town hall for all women. That room was full of white women who were already in support of the Republican Party. That is not a full demonstration of what the diversity of our nation is. He does not want anyone within close proximity to him who would challenge him on the issues at hand. And so I think if she targets those 55% of the white women who voted for him in 2016, continues to take the hard interviews with Fox and with other news outlets and untraditional news media, I think she will gain the trust of the public. She's not perfect. She's not going to always have an answer. And if that is an issue for you, then you should also have an issue with Trump, who has a concept of a plan, but has not told you specifically how he will achieve those plans, other than invoking fear and bodily shame and downgrading black and brown communities. And it's not even just about black and brown folks at this point. Like, I want us to get aside from talking about just race, but you can't do that when you have a person who's running for office who always brings race in the mix. So why is that a topic of conversation all the time? I don't know, but I hope the American people can get past this and just, vote on November 5th, not January 5th.
Willie, you have a comment.
I believe that she's a total disaster, as I've said before. I believe these polls are going to shift drastically into Donald Trump's favor. I believe that VP Harris has continually to show that she is not going to answer. And she also has a thing with presenting something without a plan. She can never answer a full question unless she has a teleprompter in front of her. As again I say, she is on a string and the puppet master is at control.
If she's on a string, then Donald J. Trump is unhinged.
Well, I'll take unhinged. Let's go. Wild, Wild West, baby.
In recent weeks, Donald Trump has gained momentum, edging ahead in Arizona, overtaking Harris in North Carolina, and catching up in Nevada. He's also closing the gap in key states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Willie, with this momentum, can Trump hold the lead until the November 5th election?
Well, as I said, because he misspoke, because one thing about Democrats, they will drive this into the ground until 15 years later. In their failed systems. But nonetheless, I do believe that the momentum is going to stay strong. He is strong. He is sharp. No matter what ageism that the left throws at us, he is sharp. He has overcome Sleepy Joe Biden. And I believe that he can also overcome cackling, heckling VP Harris. So at that, I believe that we'll be able.
A cackling, hackling Auntie Harris, VP Harris, soon to be Madam President of the United States, the first black woman president, the first female president of this country. I would rather her any day. Any day.
Take her. As I said.
And not to mention, y'all, it's not even just about the top of the ticket. You have down ballot races that also matter. So your commissioners, your mayors, your gubernatorial races. And we all know the gubernatorial race in North Carolina is extremely important. And speaking of North Carolina, the early voting started today. So please, North Carolina folks, go on and raise up, take your shirt off, twist it around your head like a
I've let everybody in North Carolina know who to vote for, and that's Mark Robertson. So we have to understand the trajectory where we are. And I would say this, I don't know how this country will be able to stand under Harris administration. I left the country when Obama won. And I think.
Well, do you want me to help you pack your bags?
Help you pack your bags. Because I can tell you right now that the level of socialism that will come into this country is alarming. Be careful. Vote and vote Republican. Red all the way down the ticket.
I'm so excited to be calling her Madam President.
Former VP.
On November 5th.
Well, you all, this has been some show tonight. Y'all been going at it, okay? We have gotten a lot of information tonight. It's been awesome in here. Thank you all so much, keeping it respectful, getting your views out there.
Of course.
Thank you so much for tuning into Americana. We will meet you right here tomorrow, 7:30. Thanks for watching.